It's time to update our rest of season rankings. It's Wednesday. Drop a like and help us get to 40,000 subscribers. Subscribe if you've been along with us for this journey. We appreciate you guys. I'm trying to help you win your leagues here. Running back, starting with the S tier, we have Jonathan Taylor and Christian McCaffrey. Both of these guys in a tier by themselves. Now, we've moved Bijan out of this tier. And honestly, in my personal rankings, I have Jonathan Taylor in his own tier because I just would rather have JT over CMC in every format.
He looks like Le'Veon Bell.
I know. It's ridiculous.
Like,
yes,
it's insane.
He's crazy. So, but, if you have either of these guys, Christian McCaffrey is like a wide receiver 1 if he didn't even play running back. And so both of them are great. Both of them are difference makers for you. And, obviously the clear top 2 running backs right now in fantasy football.
Yeah, I think the big conversation here is going to be, okay, Bijan Robinson no longer comfortably for us in the S tier because I think you have seen a significant drop down in production, and honestly even like floor with Bijan right now, his volume has fluctuated quite a bit compared to what you're seeing on a weekly basis with JT and CMC. So again, it's nothing against Bijan really. It's just we're starting to really see JT and CMC kind of elevate themselves, separate themselves from everybody else, the rest of the field. Bijan's production is definitely more lockstep in line with Jahmyr Gibbs and Devon Achane, who are also going to be in the A tier here. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have probably he's got the same ceiling as all these other guys. His floor a bit lower. It's going to be more up and down, but again, it's Jahmyr Gibbs. He's one of the best offenses in the league, and he continues to look phenomenal. Devon Achane has actually had the highest floor of all the running backs here, but his situation as a whole is a bit more iffy. You don't know when he's going to have like a 3 or 4 week run of 15 to 18 points, and will he ever pop off again in the near future for another 40-pointer? We don't really know, right? Because Miami is so up and down offensively. But again, I mean, as the running back, running back 3 directly behind JT and CMC right now in fantasy this year, Achane has been phenomenal. Got to give him his respect. And then Josh Jacobs just continues to be very consistent, very solid. And what was a rock fight on Monday night against Philly, he still had 19 points. Again, he's getting elite level volume. He's the RB6 on the season. They've already had their bye week. The rest of his schedule for the end of the year, they got Chicago twice. They've got the Giants. They've got Detroit, Minnesota, who has a shaky run defense. Denver's really the only tough matchup down the stretch here. Other than that, I think you're going to continue to see really high levels of production from him.
All right, going down to the beach here. We'll start with James Cook, who the last 5 weeks, he's had that 33-point game against Carolina. But you'll notice in the games where he doesn't score touchdowns or the games not against, Carolina, he had a good game against Miami this year, had a good game against New Orleans. Those are all really bad teams. The game against good teams, he's not really producing at a super high level. Now, we're not going to move him down our rankings. It's just a matter of you need to take care of your expectations with James Cook in terms of he will have those weeks where it's not that great. Javonte Williams is going to be next. Obviously, he, before the bye, had a week that wasn't that great, but other than that, he's been very consistent this year in a great offense that scores 30-plus points per game. Saquon Barkley has been a mixed bag this year, but the last couple weeks, you've seen some Saquon that's that's a little bit better. 33 points in week 8. He only had 13 against Green Bay on Monday Night Football. He didn't have a touchdown in that game. If he would have had a touchdown, you would have seen him, post a 20-point game.
He's just not scoring touchdowns.
That's just the problem with Saquon Barkley right now. And so, still ranking him in this tier, still ranking him as a running back 1, just knowing that he's probably a low-end running back 1 rest of the season. Kyron Williams, kind of the same thing. He's been a low-end running back 1 the last couple of years, and he's continuing to be that. He's just very consistent, exactly what he is. And he is also in the best offense, maybe the best offense in the NFL right now with an MVP candidate, Matt Stafford, and he is reaping the benefits. Even when his snap share goes down, he's productive, and so you know that you can count on Kyron Williams to produce for you. Ashton Genty recently has been much better than he was at the beginning of the season. And in fact, I think now he's a running back 1 on the season, the running back 12 now. But his last, 5 weeks of play here, 6 weeks, 33, 15, 16, 4, 19, and 15. So, he's not probably a guy that's going to get you 20-plus points, but the 15 to 17 range is where he's going to land. And that's really valuable, especially where you drafted Genty at this year. And then, of course, Rico Dowdle, who we got barked at last week because we didn't have him high enough. And I was like, yeah, that's totally fair. Yep. So we'll move Rico Dowdle. We both moved him up, but we basically just tiered him higher this week as well. We both have him at about 13. So he's the running back 10 on the year. He had 15 points against New Orleans, but the most important thing here was that he had 80% of the snaps. They basically have said, yeah, we don't care about Chuba Hubbard anymore.
Paid you, screw you.
which that's kind of what we wanted to see, and now we've seen it for 2 straight weeks. And so with Rico, we don't have any reservations about him rest of the season. He is going to be a B tier running back. He's elite, and he's a clear tier above these next guys in the C tier now.
Yeah, Brees going to be at the top of the C tier because again, do you want to trust the Jets every single week? He's had 32 and 19 points in week 8 against Cincinnati, week 10 against Cleveland's defense, New England and Baltimore over the next couple of weeks. And then you got like Atlanta, Miami, Jacksonville, New Orleans. So he actually has a pretty solid playoff schedule there, at least in the first couple of weeks of the playoffs. But again, I mean, in an offense where Justin Fields is only throwing the ball 11 times, they can't throw the ball 11 times every single week and expect defenses to not know exactly what they're going to do by running the ball. They're going to have to be either more versatile or just continue to suck, which would result in maybe a little more inconsistency from Brees long term. So we're just going to be a little bit conservative with him for a week or two more until we see it more consistently, and then maybe he'll find himself in the B tier. He's the best running back by far here. Bucky Irving, there's essentially no timetable for his return. I mean, these were supposed to be like minor injuries that were supposed to sideline him for like 2 or 3 weeks tops. And he has missed, I mean, more than an IR stunt at this point. He's missed 5 games, and there's no indication that he's going to be back anytime soon. They've already said he's not expected to play in week 11, and that's Monday heading into week 11. Like this is crazy with Bucky, and honestly, it just really sucks. Quinshawn Judkins, you're starting to see, again, the floor is really coming out with Quinshawn, which is just a really, really bad floor. When he doesn't have a touchdown, it's 5 to 10 points, man. It's not pretty. Travis Etienne has been decent and up and down throughout the course of the year. 8, 9, and 6 points before the bye week. After the bye, 16 and 15. So again, low floor, but the volume is going up. I'm definitely encouraged by that. That's a good sign for him. He definitely deserves to be firmly in this tier as a mid running back too. Derrick Henry continues to move down on rankings. We both have him ranked at RB 17 at this point. Anyone who has Derrick Henry ranked as a low end running back 1 is just kidding themselves at this point, and they're literally lying to themselves. Like, you're just in denial. I'm sorry. It's not happening with Derrick Henry this season. And again, it's not because he sucks. It's because defenses won't let him find the end zone. They will not. Once you get to the red zone, they literally force Lamar Jackson to throw the ball in the red zone because they cannot. The only chance that you have at stopping that offense now with Baltimore going on this run is by making them one-dimensional, and that's going to be through the air because there's more room for error there.
Yeah, if Derrick Henry was named Chase Brown, he'd be ranked 10 spots
2 tiers lower.
And yep. I know that because they're averaging the same amount of points per game this year, and Chase Brown is ranked 10 spots lower. So
yep.
That's the proof is in the pudding there. It's literally name value. He's still a sell. D tier, Jaylen Warren. Still kind of steady, consistent. This tier is kind of the limited upside, guys, but the volume's going to be there. With Warren and Swift, that's true. You saw Swift come back. And even though Monangai did have a touchdown, and that is going to be, I think it's going to lower Swift's ceiling rest of the season. He did have 14 points in this game still because he had 8 targets, 5 receptions on 62% of the snaps. And even though, again, Kyle Monangai had 38% of the snaps, had a touchdown, he only had 1 target in this game. And so, like, DeAndre Swift with the receiving upside does give him a high floor. And so you have to respect that. We were having a discussion last week, like maybe we, buy low on Monangai, maybe we buy low on Swifty. Well, it turns out Swift was the right one to buy low on. I was wrong about that. And so Swifty, maintains a spot in our rankings. Amarian Hampton, it's getting tough with Hampton. I don't know if we've heard anything else about him. I still have him in the flock league. I've held him all this time. I'm now 5-5. So it's really, he's not a walking boot anymore. He's not a walking boot.
Hampton?
Yes.
Good for him.
That is very good.
Good for
so
him.
I'm hoping after the bye week. It's probably, so that would be week 13, which means I have to survive 1-2 more weeks without him. Please. Okay. That's great news, but still, until we know more about his injury, we have to rank him here. Chase Brown's been better. He's been better. I don't think he's like back, but he's better. He had the bye week this week, so we're not moving him in our rankings. And then J.K. Dobbins, that game was hideous. Mm-hmm. There was nothing I liked about any of the primetime games this week. 9 points.
They're gonna be awful on Thursday again. Did you see the matchup this week?
No.
The Jets are playing on Thursday night.
Why did they do that?
Yeah.
Do they hate us? I'm not watching
they do
that.
hate us.
I'm not watching.
No, neither am I.
Like, I'll watch for Garrett Wilson. Oh, wait.
Yeah, Woody Marks also going to be here, very up and down. Again, he's just a guy that's filling in for the season and has been, anywhere from 15 points to 2 points. And aside from that 27-pointer against Tennessee, granted that's Tennessee, he's got a nice matchup this week against Tennessee, so we'll rank him high this week. But outside of that, man, you've got a mixed bag in terms of rest of season outlook with matchups. Indy's run defense, Kansas City's run defense. You got the Chargers, you have Arizona and Vegas, which is great. You've got Buffalo, which is so-so. Like, again, this offense is so unreliable. You just never know what you're going to get from a guy like Woody Marks. Same with David Montgomery. Very game plan dependent. Are they going to be, up by 20, by halftime or by the third quarter, or are they going to, be in kind of a shootout where they're throwing the ball a ton? And the last couple of weeks, you've seen really good game scripts from Monty. He's gotten more volume, but he didn't get a touchdown this week against Washington. So he ended up with kind of the same amount of production that he's been getting over the last month plus. Then we got Henderson. I know everybody's probably curious about where we're ranking Henderson. I've got Henderson ranked as a low-end running back 2. Avery's got him ranked as a high-end running back 3. I think anywhere in that range within this tier of running backs, within the same conversation as Aaron Jones and Alvin Kamara as upside shots for us this season, I think is totally reasonable. The difference between a guy like Henderson and Alvin Kamara, though, who's in this tier as well, is that Alvin Kamara is not contending for a snap share with any other running back in that offense because Kendre Miller is out for the rest of the season. You just see a way better situation in New England, in theory, for Henderson. But again, that's going to be kind of evened out by the volume share, which we don't really know is what it's going to look like until Ramondre is back healthy. Then Aaron Jones really coming on here. This honestly is a perfect fantasy outlook for Aaron Jones. As JJ McCarthy continues to struggle, the wide receivers continue to fail to produce, go figure. And he has 15 points against Baltimore. So Chicago, Green Bay, Seattle, Washington is a dump down option for JJ McCarthy, who's really just not figuring it out at this point. We're going to see, I think, this type of Aaron Jones for the rest of the year where he kind of has a high floor with that receiving usage. Cap ceiling for sure. That whole offense has a cap ceiling, but I think he'll be a pretty decent flex option the rest of the season.
All right, going to these last years. So Kenneth Walker. I mean, I don't know what you want me to say because they scored how many points in this last game and how many points Kenneth Walker have? 8.
Yeah,
he's just not there. It's just not there. It's not good. It's not. You don't want to start him. Tyron Tracy, kind of the same thing. We aren't seeing very much upside, even though there's some volume there. It's just you don't feel good about it. Trey Benson, hopefully he comes back this week. We're still waiting on that. Zach Charbonnet continues to get the touchdowns in that offense. In fact, I mean, Charbonnet, let me just fact check myself. I think he's been more productive. No, I mean, it's 34 compared to 27. So technically, Walker still has been more productive. I think it's because Charbonnet missed that game. That's why. But both of them, you're just like, nah, don't want to start him. Ramondre Stevenson, we're going to rank here as well. I don't know how it's going to look when Ramondre comes back this week. Trayvon has more upsides. So we're going to rank him higher, but I do think Ramondre's involved there this week, and I do think it's still a committee there, and I think it's going to limit both of them. Corey Krosky-Merritt, you haven't seen anything from this guy that you're excited about, and the offense just isn't good. He had 3. I mean, he has scored 5 points or less in the last 5 weeks. He's kind of cooked. He's just kind of that. I would take Kamani Vidal over him at this point just because Kamani Vidal has a chance of starting the next couple weeks. I would probably also take RJ Harvey over him. I need to just move him way down my rankings, and so take Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt in our rankings if you would. Who's editing this video? Sherry, shout out Sherry. Take Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt and move him to the H tier because I honestly would take RJ Harvey and Rashad White over him at this point. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, because I denied a trade this week where I could have gotten JCM for Rashad White, and I was like, no, I would probably put Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt in the next to Jordan Mason, Isaiah Pacheco, that range. So he's been bad. Come on, even all again. You could maybe get him as a starter in the next couple weeks, and then I'll just finish it out here. The H tier: Rashad White, Chuba Hubbard, Jordan Mason, Pacheco, kind of the rejects, if you would. Tony Pollard, same thing. Kyle Monangai, I wish. Tyjae Spears. We actually flipped Tyjae Spears and Pollard. So we I would probably have Spears. We have them in the same tier. They both suck. Kenneth Gainwell, Kareem Hunt, Tyler Algier, Bashal Tootin, and Nick Chubb wrap up the running backs. Let's go to wide receivers now. S tier is going to be 3 guys here. We split up our S tier a little bit. Jamar Chase, JSN, who could be 1 at this point, and Puka Nacua. And what did Puka end with the other day?
18, 19.
So, yeah, I was you saw his floor. He had a touchdown, but modest day for Puka, who's still the wide receiver 4.
Such a sad floor.
It is such a sad floor, yeah. So, we got those 3 guys in the S tier this week, and then we'll go to the A tier.
Yeah, A tier is going to be, again, another small one. 4 players here. We got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's the most consistent, most reliable wide receiver probably in this tier. And then you got CeeDee Lamb, who's in one of the better, more explosive offenses. Now, they've kind of taken a step back, honestly, the last few weeks. But coming off the bye, expect them to bounce back and be solid again. 22, 14, and 15 points before the bye. So again, with CeeDee Lamb, only 1 touchdown in that stretch. I think you're seeing his floor as well. He still is. I mean, that's a pretty dang nice floor for one of the better wide receivers in the NFL. Then we got Rashee Rice, who's looking to be, I think his rest of the season trajectory is easily a top 6 wide receiver. You could debate just based off of, schedule and whatnot. I mean, he could be a top 3 wide receiver. He's definitely capable of doing that as long as he continues to find touchdown opportunities in the red zone. They love to find Rashee Rice in the red zone specifically. I mean, that's what's raising his ceiling so much, and it's really fun to watch that offense. Drake London, coming off of a phenomenal game against Indy, he just continues to do pretty much what we expected him to do heading into this season. And aside from like a little bit of a rough stretch in the first third of the year, that volume is still consistently there. He's still been phenomenal. I don't expect that to end anytime soon. You're seeing more volatility, honestly, at running back right now in Bijan than you are with Drake London.
Going to the B tier, I mean, you could easily have Devontae Adams in that A tier because he's the wide receiver 7 on the year, and so I'm fine with that if you want to go ahead and put him in the A tier. But he's been really good in one of the best offenses in the NFL. Emeka Ibuka, kind of had a bounce back this week after having a couple slow weeks, but he does project really well rest of the season if Baker can get better. We have Justin Jefferson ranked here, and it kind of just seems at this point like it's just like a charity. Like, that's what it is. Because he's just not. I mean, I guess what he's doing is comparable to Nico, and it's comparable to Rome Odunze. And so by placing him in this tier, really, I mean, yeah, I get. You could technically just put Adams and Ibuka in their own tier and then have these next guys, and I would be cool with it because I would take Adams and Ibuka over Jefferson, Odunze, Nico, and Olave all day.
Yeah, and look, Jefferson still, 12 targets against Baltimore. He just didn't haul all of them, and he literally dropped a touchdown. So we could have another 16-point game from Jefferson, and he's doing exactly what he's been doing all year, which is about 15, 16 points per game, which I think merits him being in this tier.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, we're talking about Jefferson. It's like, oh, he almost had a touchdown, so he could have had 16 points rather than
it's not good.
Yeah, no, it's hashtag bad. And so, I don't feel good about the Vikings situation or their receivers rest of the season.
Yep.
Rome Odunze, he's coming off of his, probably one of his best matchups rest of the season against the Giants. I think he's going to be pretty boom or bust rest of the season, to be honest with you, which sucks because I feel like we kind of missed on that. Like, I thought he was going to be more consistent. He just hasn't been. Nico Collins, Nico's not been bad. And he's still the wide receiver. He's the wide receiver 26 in the year, but those last 2 games, 14 and 22 points with 11 and 15 targets. He's had 10 or more targets in each of his last 3 games. And so I feel pretty good about Nico rest of the season. He could be a sneaky buy low option for your fantasy teams at this point. Then we move Chris Olave into this tier. And the reason we move Chris Olave in this tier is because Chris Olave is scoring as much as all of these guys. He's the wide receiver 9 on the season, just had a 21-point game. And in a terrible offense, he only played 50% of snaps in week 10. I don't know why, but why did he only play 50%? Because he still had 8 targets, 5 receptions, 104 yards, and a touchdown. He has had a big play in that game. But now they have the bye week. Chris Olave has been fantastic this season. I think, he's averaging, as many points from a points per game perspective, 14.8 points per game. That's more than Rome. It's more than Nico. It's more than Jefferson. So he deserves to be in this tier, and he's just one of the better wide receivers in the NFL. I think he's pretty slept on, and he's doing it in a bad situation, which is even more impressive.
Yeah, C tier, we've got some more, I guess, week-to-week volatility from some of these guys. We just feel less comfortable with them on a week-to-week basis. But Ladd McConkey, again, still looking to be on the rise here. He's actually a low-end wide receiver 1 now on the season, but they do have the bye week heading into week 12, which does obviously hurt his ROS rank a little bit compared to these other guys who've already been through their bye weeks. And he had a 9-point game against Tennessee. His target volume has gone back down where he needed a touchdown against Pittsburgh to have the 20-point game that he had. And again, 6 and 6 targets, which is right back down to the volume that you were seeing at the beginning of the season. With that volume just going up and down and being very game plan dependent, you never know when Ladd is going to screw you any given week. Jalen Waddle, again, in a terrible situation, continues to produce because there's no Tyreek Hill there. Coming off a 19-point game the last 3 weeks, 20, 14, and 19 points. Honestly, he's been phenomenal. 2 touchdowns in that stretch, 6, 9, and 7 targets. He's not eclipsed double-digit target volume this season, so that's, again, going to be a reason why he's not in the tier above. Michael Pittman finally had a not great week because JT had 50 points. Look, I'm not going to blame this on Pittman. Some people are going to knock Pittman for this. He has had 3 single-digit games this season, so you're always worried about that a little bit. But again, there's just not really much of a difference between a guy like Pittman and Ladd McConkey this season. Ladd's going to have a higher ceiling, but Pittman, any given week, can have 15 to 22 points or something like that. So he's going to be fine after this bye week. They got Kansas City and Houston, which are going to be 2 tough defensive matchups, and then Jacksonville, Seattle, San Fran, and Jacksonville again for the playoff run. So a mixed bag there for him. Probably more positive in the long term versus the short term. And then we've got Devonta Smith. At this point, Avery and I just both put our foot down. We're tired of ranking A.J. Brown over Devonta Smith. Devonta Smith doesn't deserve to be shorted. And again, I don't want to short AJ Brown, the talent or the player or anything like that. But look, we care about fantasy football. We care about points. And right now it's not even a conversation between Smith and AJ Brown. Which do you prefer in fantasy football to start every single week? Is Devonta Smith. He's the more reliable, more consistent option. Neither of them are super consistent, but Devonta Smith, I mean, this is the best version of Devonta Smith, honestly, that we've probably seen. And it's been at the expense of pretty much every other weapon in that offense, but it's great for him.
Yeah, it turns out Devonta Smith is a pretty good pick this year, as it turns out. That's pretty interesting. D tier, George Pickens. We're lower on George Pickens than everybody else, and I don't think we're low on him per se. We have him as the wide receiver 17, I think 18. Most people still have him as a low end wide receiver 1 on the site. He scored like around 13 points, 14 points the last couple weeks with CD back. I think that's what he is, which is a very consistent wide receiver 2, but he definitely doesn't have, I don't think he's going to be a wide receiver 1 rest of the season. And so I think this is where we feel comfortable ranking George Pickens. We got Zay Flowers here. Flowers is an interesting one because we were a little bit high on him for his consistency, but when you're looking at his game log, I guess he's still consistent. It's just like 12, 11, 14 points consistent. He scored 1 touchdown all year and it was in week 1. And so he just has extremely limited upside.
They target their tight ends in the red zone is what they do.
And it's tough. And so he's not a red zone threat. Courtland Sutton, he's just not been good this year. He's a wide receiver 17, and that's by Sutton standards. But he's only had, one 20-plus point game this year. Yeah. So his upside has just disappeared this year, which just sucks because it doesn't feel like the Broncos are totally, to be honest with you, Troy Franklin has kind of cut into Sutton's workload a little bit. Franklin has been fairly productive. There have been multiple weeks this year where Troy Franklin has outscored Courtland Sutton, including last week where he had 15 points to Courtland Sutton's 5. In week 8 where he had 26 to Courtland Sutton's 10. You had it in week 2 against Indianapolis, 24 to Courtland Sutton's 1. And so these guys kind of alternate weeks at this point. And I think it's a testament to Troy Franklin, but I also think it just means that Courtland Sutton has limited upside rest of the year. AJ Brown, what do you want from us? What do you want from us? AJ Brown, we said week after week after week, he's going to bounce back. 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 He didn't bounce back. Not really. He had a couple good games in there, but 3 points against Green Bay, he was gone. And Devonta Smith was the wide receiver 1 there from a volume standpoint and from a production standpoint. So like Nate mentioned, we're done dragging our feet there. And then 2 interesting guys with lots of upside here. Marvin Harrison, now with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, I like a lot more. I've moved him up my rankings quite a bit. So he's easily in this low end wide receiver 2 tier rest of the season.
If you told me that Brissett was going to be the starting quarterback for Arizona rest of the season, I never would have traded him.
Well, I know. That's why I put him on the buys. We genuinely had him as a sell if Kyler's going to be the quarterback.
Right.
I did not think they'd bench Kyler.
Yeah, neither did I.
Not in a million years. So it's we can't see that coming. But now it's I pivot. I'm going to pivot. Mm-hmm. And then T. Higgins, look, he's coming back. He's coming back. And because of that, Higgins is going to, he's already had high upside with Flacco. Higgins is a nice option rest of the year. I'm not getting too carried away here, though. I think a low-end wide receiver 2 is still what T. Higgins is going to end up being the rest of the year. With Joe Burrow not coming back for the next couple weeks, and considering that most of the rest of the season, only half of its regular season, and we got the playoffs right after that. I think, you'll have T. Higgins with Joe Burrow for the playoffs, which is great. Rest of the regular season, though, I still think he has a low floor. Regardless, you love the news that you're going to get Joe Burrow back if you own T. Higgins.
Then in the next tier, we're going to start with Deebo Samuel, who did have a decent week this week with no Jaden Daniels. We don't know when Daniels will be back, but he still had 13 points, had a touchdown. Again, people are going to look at the points and be like, oh, that was phenomenal. It was decent. Yeah, salvage your day, but the volume is not there. Only 5 targets, 4 receptions. Mariota, 18 points. He had a couple of touchdowns, but he only threw the ball 22 times, so you just don't know who's going to get the ball there. It's kind of a committee wide receiver room, really, where you never know who's going to be the lead target option any given week. Garrett Wilson falls down multiple tiers here. This is not his fault. He injures his knee. Again, he's going to be out 3 to 4 weeks now. Again, sucks for my team in the Flock League. I don't really know how I could have anticipated this or expected it. But even once Wilson is back, guys, Justin Fields throwing the ball 11 times in a game and getting away with it. What is Garrett Wilson going to be able to do, and what just continues to be the most disgusting situation in the NFL year in and year out. So, look, he's still going to have some good weeks, hopefully, when he's back healthy, but on a consistent basis, we've seen his floor. We saw his floor before he got injured, and it's just you're kind of getting by the skin of your teeth every single week because he's getting garbage time production. So Ted McMillan with Carolina, again, we know what Ted McMillan is at this point. He's a low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3. He had 11 points on 8 targets, 8 points a week before, 16, not 6. So he's had 7 points sprinkled in there. He's never eclipsed 20 points, never gotten to 20 points this season. You're going to get a mixed bag out of Tet McMillan, I think, rest of the season. He's a nice flex option, not much more than that. DK Metcalf, very similar to Tet, but he's got a lower floor because the target volume isn't consistently there. And this offense looks very similar to how it has over the last half decade or more. And it's just not pretty. And DK is, going to be kind of touchdown or bust here. BTJ has just been banged up. He missed last week. Jacoby Myers is now in there. That's more target volume to contend with. Do you trust Trevor Lawrence to get him the ball consistently? I don't really know. He's had drop issues this season. Are they ever going to figure it out there in Jacksonville? I honestly doubt it at this point. He is the best probably upside shot in this range, though, in this tier. Stephon Diggs has been the most reliable. He's had the highest floor over the last 4 weeks. You can thank Drake May for that. The volume has just continued to inflow, and it's been really, really good for Diggs and his flexibility, I think, in fantasy football, and that bodes well for him rest of the season.
G tier, we'll start with 2 guys that I think are high floor guys that are underrated right now, Wan'Dale Robinson and Khalil Shakir. We both have them at the top of this tier because, again, you're going to get that high floor from them every single week. Wan'Dale, a PPR merchant on the Giants, and again, he continues to get a lot of volume with no Malik Neighbors there. And then Khalil Shakir, who, I mean, he's a little bit more boomer bust than Wan'Dale is, but still, he's very heavily involved in that offense. You saw Keon Coleman actually get involved this last week, but most of the time it's only Khalil Shakir for the most part. Quentin Johnson continues to be mixed baggy. I mean, it just depends with QJ. So you're looking at the last couple weeks, 9, 15, 0, and 11 points. And so it's just his upside, what you saw for the first 4 weeks, with 24, 15, 14, and 24 was clearly an outlier. Because even the games where he's been scoring touchdowns, now his touchdown games, instead of being 20, 25, are 11 to 15. And that's where you're kind of acknowledging that his upside is more limited rest of the season, but he still does play in a good offense. Jordan Addison, kind of the same thing. I mean, the volume for Jordan Addison, even though Jordan Addison, I think, is a fantastic receiver and a fantastic talent, he had 11 targets against Baltimore, which is great, but only had 6 points off of that. Only caught 3 of those, and I think that's the problem. He's either getting low volume or he's getting high volume, and with J.J. McCarthy at quarterback, I don't think they convert a lot. And that's really the main thing. I'm more so low on Jordan Addison because of J.J. McCarthy than anything, and I don't think that gets better this year. We told you a couple weeks ago to buy Jamison Williams. I hope you bought Jamison Williams instead of just trolled us in the comments, because he was one of the guys we actually got right on a buys video this week, and he's had 16 and 23 points since the buy. Look, with J-Mo, it was never going to be him scoring 5 or less points every single week with as much as they paid him in this offseason and as much as they value him in that offense. In the first game where you had Dan Campbell actually calling plays, J-Mo gets much more involved, and I think that's really good rest of the season as well. So I hope you bought J-Mo. I hope you got a laugh, but I hope you bought J-Mo, because he's been pretty good and he's definitely increased his stock in the last couple weeks. Xavier Worthy, I've moved down in my rankings personally just because you're just not seeing the upside there with him this year like you did last year with Rice. I mean, his upside right now is 10, 11 points per game, and he's really scoring consistently below that. And so it's just tough with Worthy. I do think he gets decent volume, but unless he gets a touchdown, it's going to be hard for him to unlock that huge ceiling that we know he has. But with Rice in that offense, I just think with Rice getting targets, Kelsey getting targets, Marquise Brown getting targets, it's going to be hard for Xavier Worthy to get enough target volume to be consistently fantasy productive this season. And so H tier and I tier, we'll finish it up.
Yeah, we got Keenan Allen at the top of the tier. Again, he's kind of just settled into this range where when he gets a touchdown, he's going to be really solid. When he doesn't, it's not going to be good. Last 5 weeks, he's had 1 double-digit game where he had 28 against Indy, 6, 8, 6, and 3 points. Honestly, he could be ranked lower than this, and I wouldn't blame you, because that volume has really, really come down. He has not eclipsed 5 targets over the last month since that one where he popped off against Indy. Alec Pierce has been the biggest riser in our rankings and everybody's rankings. I think everybody was pretty conservative, understandably so, including us, with Alec Pierce, because we see big games from him plenty of times, and we're like, okay, you're going to see him come back down to earth. And while he will, and while he does still have a low floor when he doesn't score a touchdown, I mean, this is a really comfortable flex option. Again, I don't want to continue to bring up the trade that I made, but I did not expect Alec Pierce to do this. When I traded to get Alec Pierce as a throw-in, he quite literally was a throw-in in that deal, and it ended up really paying off. because again, he's looking like a really solid high upside flex option any given week because this offense is so explosive. They have big play upside with any of those wide receivers, Pittman, Downs, Alec Pierce, and JT on the ground. It kind of they have to respect the run game, which opens up the field for these wide receivers and Alec Pierce specifically to get some of these big plays. Juwan Jennings has been a big riser as well with no Pearsall, and who knows when Pearsall is going to be back. Jennings has had like 14 and 17 points the last couple of weeks. I think that continues with no timetable for Ayuk's return. George Kittle, I think, has opened things up quite a bit, and once Purdy's back, I mean, Purdy likes to get the ball to Jennings as well. Romeo Doubs actually left the Monday night game injured, so I haven't heard anything on his status. He suffers a chest injury, and I think he left the game. So we'll see if he misses time there. 1 point after the previous 4 weeks, having 10, 13, 9, and 16 points. He doesn't have the upside that guys like Alec Pierce do in this tier. But if he does come back healthy sooner rather than later, he probably will maintain and sustain kind of this consistent target volume, which is a little more reliable. Ricky Pearsall, again, when's he going to be back healthy? Same with Terry McLaurin in this range. Josh Downs, who I also mentioned, a decent flex option any given week. He's going to have a really low floor though. And then the I tier, Rashid Shaheed just we need to see him get implemented into this offense, get comfortable with it in Seattle. And I do think his rest of the season outlook is going to be still pretty positive. DJ Moore, you're not feeling good about starting him. Troy Franklin has been on the rise, and Tez Johnson, these two young guys that have really come on their respective offenses. Franklin just because he's getting volume and they like to utilize him. Tez Johnson because of the injuries. Chris Godwin, we don't know when he's going to be back healthy, but he'll be an interesting guy once he is back. You just don't know if it's going to be until like playoff time. So Jacoby Myers, Cooper Kupp, Keon Coleman, Calvin Ridley in this range as well. None of these guys you're super comfortable starting.
All right, tight end rankings here. The S tier is going to be Trey McBride and Brock Bowers, both guys you feel very good about. Rest season, McBride had a great game with Jacoby Brissett, and I think that Jacoby Brissett raises his upside even a little bit more. In the A tier, Tyler Warren coming off of a big week with no touchdowns. He still had like 18 points, looks really good. George Kittle had a big week, and he plays me in the Flock League this week, so he's going to explode. He's going to explode. Jake Ferguson, obviously had the bye, but so we don't really know. But he's been a little bit more hit or miss since he started the season pretty hot. We're going to keep him in the A tier because he's still scoring at a very high clip from a points per game standpoint. Sam Laporta, kind of the same thing. He's a little bit more hit or miss, but he had 10 points this last week, and he's been fine. Aronde Gadsden, he's hurt. I haven't moved him all the way down here because I don't know the extent of the injury, but he got.
They said he's day-to-day.
Okay, so he bruised his quad. Okay, yeah. That's better than what it looked like. So obviously when he's on the field, he's very productive. There's no doubt about that. Only played 50% of snaps in this game and had 6 targets still, and so his target volume is very good for a tight end of his caliber. Kelsey, kind of the same thing. Kelsey's just been consistent this year. Still low in tight end 1. Dallas Goedert is touchdown upside guy. Dalton Kincaid, he is also hurt. I don't know the extent of his injury yet. Week to week with a hamstring injury, so you have to dock him a little bit for that. Fannon's been a low in tight end 1, but he's been a little bit more boom or bust recently. And with Fannon, you never kind of know. 7, 18, and then 8 points after the bye. They do have Baltimore next week, so expect a big game from Fannon then. But Jerry Jeudy actually had a big game this week, and I don't know if that will affect Fannon at all. And then Kyle Pitts in this year, and then Juwan Johnson, who's been a tight end 1 this season, by the way.
Tight end 7.
The C tier, we'll start with Colson Loveland, and then the C tier is going to be our last tier we rank for tight ends because we just don't want to get too much into the weeds. Guys like Colson Loveland have a ton of upside. Theo Johnson here has a ton of upside. I have Theo Johnson as in my B tier at tight end 14, but Nathan has him at 24, so we're just split on Theo Johnson. But I respect him because he's been pretty good with Jackson Dart, to be honest with you. Guys like Zach Ertz, you can plug it on a week-to-week basis. Dalton Schultz had a big week this week, so again, all plug and play guys there. Again, keeping Colson Loveland in this tier because we got to see it consistently. He scored 9 points. It's replacement level. Yeah,
and then we've got all the QBs here. I'll just walk through them. S tier, Allen, Lamar, Mahomes, and Drake May. These guys are all phenomenal. Drake May is the QB1 on the year right now. Josh Allen has been fine. He's not hurting you or anything, but he's not really winning you weeks. Again, we've talked about this before, but just not really seeing it with him right now. He's a QB4, not the elite upside that you're used to from him. Or with Lamar Jackson. Jackson has also been solid. He hasn't been out of this world. 25 and 16 points the last couple of weeks. We'll see what happens with both of these guys. You can't deny the rushing upside. They have to still belong in the S tier. But Mahomes, again, has been just as good as all these other guys. Drake May, MVP candidate. A tier. Jalen Hurts does not belong in the S tier because you saw what Jalen Hurts' floor is, and honestly, Jalen Hurts does not look good this season as a passer. They love using the tush-push and taking advantage of that. But you've got guys like Justin Herbert, who I think have just as much of an argument to be ranked above Hurts or in the following tier as Hurts does to be in that tier. All of these guys have really, really high upside weeks. Baker Mayfield as well, because they pass the frick out of the ball. Jackson Dart just suffered from a concussion. Dable's out now. There's kind of a lot of unknown with the Giants and what the rest of the season outlook is going to look like as an offense. So many injuries right now, and Jackson Dart with the concussion, he'll miss a week, so that does impact him. He's going to miss a week, and they have the bye week in week 14. You're not going to have him for 2 weeks rest of the season. Dak Prescott, Daniel Jones, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Matt Stafford, all pocket passing QBs that are all phenomenal with their their fantasy production every single week. They're very reliable. They're not going to kill you. B tier, you got guys that are a little bit of a step down, lower floors. Goff, Darnold, Love, and Joe Burrow's the guy that I want to highlight here. Joe Burrow will be firmly in this A tier in the coming weeks. Again, he's just going to incrementally increase as we get closer to his return. Right now, we're just knocking him because it costs you if you're spending a roster spot on Joe Burrow and he's not playing for probably the next 2 or 3 weeks. C tier, a bunch of guys. I'm not going to name them all, honestly, because every single one of them is streamable. They're generally on waivers, including Brissett, who I want to talk about. Let's give Brissett his flowers. He's been one of the most consistent, productive quarterbacks in fantasy. That's a streamable option, and he's a guy that you're totally comfortable with in your starting lineup rest of the season.
So there you go. ROS season ranks. Again, if you enjoyed this video every week, make sure you drop a like, make sure you're subscribed. We'll be back tomorrow with our matchups video to help you win in week 11. We are getting close to the playoffs. Thanks for watching, guys. We appreciate you. We'll see you here soon.